somewhere. No, I just wanted to think it would be a good idea just to sort of write down out of this workshop what you think you would like to get out of it, and just to clarify what you would like, and just take a minute to do that. Okay, so for my part, I want everyone to come away with a sort of sense of excitement about actually the craft of songwriting and the fact that they can do it. And so don't be influenced by negative thoughts, and also to put people in touch with something that really, really does connect with them and inspire them, and to find that out, get ways of finding that out. So that they come away thinking, I can do this. John, what do you want out of this workshop?
I would just be interested in how you go about, structuring a song. Do you start with words? Do you start with music, or accompaniment styles, or speed of the song, or whatever? I would tend to go into a room and with a blank piece of paper and just cup of coffee and 2 chocolate biscuits. That's how I get started.
Yes.
Just something comes along. But that's very scientific, so I'd be interested to know how you do it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we'll certainly be coming to that a bit later on. Deirdre, would you let us know what you're hoping to get out of this workshop?
Yeah, thanks, Brigid. I wouldn't be able to meet for a coffee because I'm in Ennis.
Oh, lovely.
I first met you.
That would be a great place to come.
I heard you sing in the record break and had a chat with you.
That's right. Hello, how are you? It's great to see you again. My goodness, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it is. I don't play an instrument, and I'm a poet and a writer. I'm doing an MA in creative writing at the moment in UL. And I just found that some of what I sing, and I sang in a choir for 15 years. I have a musical ear. So I just found some of my poems kind of really lent themselves to singing, to being sung rather than a poem. And I really am finding more and more at the age of 60 that is my first love. That music is actually my first love.
That's great.
It is. But I'm wondering, the keyboard behind me, the few songs I've written, I've picked out a tune, one key at a time. So for me, whether music comes first or it's not an issue, because for me, really always the words come first. They have to, because I don't play. But I'm pretty similar to John in that, Brigid, I would love to know, your process, how you go about it. I know some of your inspiration for songs, but just general inspiration and the shape, what makes a good song.
Yes.
Because some of them, like some of the Beatles songs, are so really simple, but they're magnificent. And then other songs that are quite involved. So just your thoughts on that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, both of you. Now, I think it might be worthwhile still going through some of the processes, these little exercises that I had lined up. Although both of you already are experienced in writing, I still think that when it comes to writing a song, you can be your own worst enemy, and you can self-censor very, very quickly. And I think one of the most important things about writing a song is really getting and connecting with the absolute gut feeling, which is precipitated really by your spontaneous reaction to something. So whether it is, in this case, we are talking about spaces and places that have a meaning. And there's also something different about writing to effectively a commission. So for example, if you did want to enter into this particular project, which I think would be just great to do just for the experience of it, and have a deadline is a very useful way to get people motivated. It's how you would just go about getting past that. This is no good. I'm scrapping that and getting past that negative thought. So I always put myself in the songwriting workshop of John Spillane. If any of you are familiar with him, he's an absolutely brilliant man for saying we're brilliant. Sure, we're all brilliant songwriters, and that's what people you need to tap into here, that you are completely original as a writer, and that's what makes you brilliant. So you don't need to be comparing yourself to others or thinking I'm not as good as the Beatles or not as good as anybody else. It's about you and your reaction to things that make it so special. And that's why it's so important to stop that self-censoring from the start, and to really, really tune into what has hit you instantaneously about a place or space or even a line. So there's a couple of tips here. I think it is about giving yourself permission to explore the emotions that you feel, and you do have to give yourself permission to do it without judgment. We're going to be talking about some of the very practical ways to do this. And also, I think you have to remember that overthinking is really the enemy of songwriting. You allow yourself to, as I say, go with the first things that come to you. But overfeeling is the friend of songwriting. So allow yourself to experience those feelings that sometimes you go, that's too dark, that's too dreary, that's too boring. Forget about that and go, this is dark, I'm feeling dark, and I'm going to go with it, and really allow yourself to explore that. That's very important, because honesty is everything. And as a songwriter and a performer, the audience are like blood, hounds. They can smell instantly if something is fake. So above all, being really honest and true is so important. And I think any form of art, and it's kind of sometimes hard to do that with songwriting, to have the nerve basically, and to be brave enough to be vulnerable and expose yourself. And that's one of the first things that comes to me when I'm doing a co-write, for example, because you have to sit down with somebody else and basically expose what it is that's really, really getting to you. So that can be quite scary, really, in a way, and a bit awkward and uncomfortable. But if you're feeling, so I think you need to, if something inspires love or hate or disgust or discomfort or romanticism or fear or a calmness or nostalgia or memories, it just kicks up memories. If that's the first thing you're feeling, just go with that, lean into it, and give it space to explore. And then you need to dig deep. If you come up with an idea that's instantaneously, you need to then follow it through and go down a tunnel with it, really, and really explore that more and more, and give yourself. So if you come up with a line that you like, or a person that you are interested in talking about, or some aspect of a building, ask yourself, why am I feeling that, or who is this about, or what's the background, or when did this happen, and what was the context of that. So just ask yourself lots of more questions. And then ultimately, I think when you're writing a song, some of the very interesting questions to ask yourself is, what am I really trying to say? What do I actually want to say here? And who am I actually talking to? Who do I want to say this to? And I think when you have those things in your mind as you're writing, it really clarifies, because you get past a lot of the fakeness and say, well, it'd be really nice to talk about that lovely, fascia, or that lovely, window there, but it's not actually moving you. So think, well, who am I talking to, and how do I want to connect with them? And once somebody, a songwriter, Beth Nielsen Chapman, it was actually said to me one time, like, why does a song actually need to be written? Like, does the world need it? Why does it need to be written? So it does take you to get into the nitty gritty of it. And the other thing then is, in terms of songwriting, the absolute key is, as you're going, put yourself in the way of inspiration. So in my case, when I come to writing about songs in particular, about buildings in particular, there are lots of techniques I use. First and foremost, I tend to read around the subject matter. I will get a book out and read some research about it. I think images are very, very important, visuals. So not just being there, if you can't even, sometimes you can't actually be in front of the building, but looking at as many different images, old images, new images, arty images, all sorts of images that you can get. And then if you're able to be in the place of the building and walk around it and walk in it, like I was very fortunate to be able to walk inside Armagh Jail, and to give me a whole other perspective, because immediately you walked into that place, you felt you were able to touch surfaces, feel textures, feel temperature, the coldness of it, feel, you know, the whole aura of the place, which was really important, you know. So if you're allowed to be able to do that, that makes all the difference, you know. But then the other most important thing for me is to be able to speak to people. Thanks. To be able to speak to people about it. And that's when things sometimes click, because you might be struggling. In the case of Austin's, Austin's department store in Derry, I just absolutely loved the building, and I thought it was such a gay and flamboyant building, and it stuck out, you know, and it was awfully, it had a real persona and a glamour about itself, and I was starting to get into the whole character of the building the way I had done with the Art Deco bank, you know, taking on a personality and a persona. But I just find that that wasn't really what I wanted to write about. I found that it's a beautiful building, and I spoke to Marcus about the architecture, and you know, it was so interesting, and how it was compared to a lot of French buildings and everything. But I thought that's not really what I want my song to be about. So I started speaking to people who had an association with the building, and I spoke to one person who talked about, I mean, it was a totally random conversation. He started saying, oh, well, like so many people said, they said, oh, I remember my mother bringing me to Austin's at every Christmas to do the Christmas shopping. And immediately all the nostalgic stories started to come out, you know. But then one guy told me about the lift, and he said they used to go up in the lift, and the lift would just constantly get stuck between two floors. And he said everybody in the lift used to have to jump to get it to shift again. And I just thought there's something very significant about a lift, apart from the fact that I was laughing my head off when he told me it. I just thought, and another guy said, oh, I remember when it used to stop between two floors, and we used to write graffiti when it stopped, we used to get the door to open and write graffiti in between the floors. And everybody had these stories, you know. And then when it came to talking to Wendy Austin, she started telling me about her grandmother and the whole story of her coming up from Cavan um, to get a job there, and the story that was associated with her coming up, and how she ended up being out of a job because she couldn't get up because of the snow, and she was stuck down in Cavan. And by the time she got up, she was a day late, and they fired her on the spot, and she ended up being in a coffee shop with no job, nothing to do, nobody to help her. And a friend came in and said, I know Austin's are hiring. So she went to Austin's and she got a job, and she was a milliner, really, really very well trained in millinery, and a very, very gifted artist. And then she ended up marrying the son of Austin's, because he and the brother both fancied her at the dance. And the older brother booked her for all the dances on her dance card. And when the younger brother Glover came up and said, can I dance? She said, no, my card's gone. I'm just booked for the whole night. So he actually went and paid the band to play a song at the very end of the night extra. And that's when Glover asked her to dance, and then they ended up getting married. And she was talking away all about these stories, you know. And the more I heard, the more I just thought, this is what the song's going to be about, and all the different aspects. So I thought it would be really nice to weave in a lot of the texture of the actual building, and characteristics of the building, and the fact that it's in the diamond and things like that. So the stories really only come out when you started talking to people. So there's lots of different ways to approach it. I don't know if you wanted that much detail on how I went about that song, but it is the kind of background for that particular thing. But it just gives you don't be afraid to explore all those stories behind it. But I think you do have to do quite a bit of work to get it to, don't stop, don't get satisfied with the first tier. Keep digging and digging till you get lots of information. So as a songwriter, then I think there's a great line. It sounds like a song. How many times have you had a conversation with someone and they've just come out with a line, the winding stair, or I don't know, whatever line, hill, hills and headwinds, and you've gone, oh, that sounds like a song. So every time that happens, write it down. Every single time that happens, and have your notebook full of those little lines, because they'll come back again and again and again, and then you need to explore them further. But that's what I mean by putting yourself in. Don't forget to do that as you're going around, because it's amazing the little nuggets you get. And so what I thought we could do, hold on now. Is do a few little exercises that will kickstart. We'll go through a sort of a process really to maybe sort of begin writing about something, and you may have a building yourself in your own mind, or and I'm just going to give a few prompts then as well to help. So the first thing I think that really gets you kick started is just allowing a kind of a stream of consciousness to flow. So if I I'm going to call out a few words, and what I want you to do is literally take 2 minutes. I'll set a timer, and I want you to write just sort of 8 to 10 words that just these words spark, that they give you just whatever comes to your mind once these words. So you can pick the few words I've got here. Mortar, gutter, scaffold, aspect, and construction. And what I want you to do is just take 2 minutes and just write down words association really for that. And I'll do it too. Okay. So I don't know what I do find that sometimes just doing this exercise always makes me realize how stuck I sometimes can be, because haven't been doing it for a while, and how your whole head is full of everything else that's going on in your life, and sometimes it's a brilliant technique to just release things. I find sometimes, but I took aspect, and I have view, distance, direction, desire, light, best, open, clear, turn, streaming. Just a few random words, really. John, do you want to give us hello, Raina? Would you like to give us, John, which word you picked? And
well, construction, building, foundations, building sites, bricklayers, girders, roofs.
great, fantastic. I think foundations is a lovely word. Girders, did you say?
Yeah, well, girders, as in large buildings.
Yeah, but those words, each of those words has another
Work
connotation.
probably better.
And you can go a lot of different places. I'm afraid to touch anything in case I get this there. You can go lots of different places with that. Each of those words can take you into another place, really.
Yeah.
Deirdre, do you want to share?
Yeah, thanks, Brigid. I have a specific building in mind. It's the Gate Lodge, excuse me, inside Glasnevin Cemetery. My grandparents lived there, and it looked out onto the cemetery. They were the caretakers there. So I picked scaffold and aspect. So scaffold, skeleton, structure, family, holding, life. And then aspect, dark, dead, headstones, trees, railings.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Railings, did you say?
Railings.
Lovely. Yeah. I think railings is a great word. Skeleton, the whole scaffold imagery already. The imagery is coming in there. So you can go in a visual way, or you can go in the meaning. Like foundations, I immediately start thinking about lots of connotations of it. Whereas skeleton, I immediately have a lovely visual image, an openness, lattice. You can go down another list of words there. Raina, do you want to give us some? Did you manage to get any words written down?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, indeed, I can.
Okay, I'll just pop the video on,
You're welcome.
if it'll work. Yeah. My name's Rihanna. Hiya.
Rihanna. Sorry,
Sorry to have come late, but Zoom just wasn't happening for me today. I don't know what happened. But I think the two words that sort of came to me on that was the construction and the aspect. And like everybody else, I suppose that sense of scaffolding. But I was thinking more of the labourers and the sweat and the dust and the
Lovely.
sometimes the turmoil, or the discourse that happens between different professions,
Lovely.
wants one out of the way so as they can get their job done. So
that's
and
great.
Aspect was more thinking, I suppose, in like especially old houses or old buildings, the underground and the cellar, and going right up to the pinnacle of the spire or seeing the skyline when you get to the top.
Fantastic. You've so much material there. There's so much visual imagery and getting into the nitty gritty of some things and going off down roads. So what I was going to say is now, if you take about 4 minutes, I'll sit and just taking some of those words, just spontaneously write a couple of sentences. They don't have to rhyme. They don't have to even make sense. It can be quite nonsensical if you want, but just try and put those words into something that hangs together. Just a couple of lines, 2 lines, if 3 lines, whatever you come up with. And I'll set the timer. And just go down the road, take, the word that you took before. Do you want 3 minutes or 4 minutes?
Probably 4.
Okay, we'll go for 4 minutes. Okay. How was that?
Mm, very interesting. Yeah.
Good exercise.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sure. I go first. And I'm back into John Spillane. I'm brilliant. I'm brilliant. I'm brilliant. As opposed to what I've written isn't that great. So no, every aspect allowed the light to pass in, unhindered, free, life-giving, touching every dusty corner, showing off what it deserved to be. So, Deirdre, do you want to share?
Yeah. I went with skeleton, with the scaffold thing. Well, with skeleton really. When moonlight lights the sky overhead, the call to dance wakes up the dead. Skeletons rattle, black iron railings provide a barrier to the child looking on from inside.
Lovely. Great. That's very complete. You know, you've a lot, there's a real structure to all of that. It's not random, you know, there's a lot of depth, a lot of things that you can, there's a lot of imagery and you can see the picture. So it's excellent. Really well done. Great. John, would you like to share?
Okay. Well, mine is about actually an old church that I visited recently, which came into my head. So construction started back in 1838 and finished in 1846. And the building stood through wind and storm, although techniques back then were not as good and sophisticated. Gable wall blew down one night in a hurricane, but it inspired a novel by a local novelist, and the building still stands today.
Lovely. Yeah, there's a lot of history associated with that. And if you were to take some of those lines now and put them into more less prose and more like lines from a song, would you be able to sort of shuffle some of the words, do you think? Like the gable wall, for example, and blew down in the storm and
Well, actually, I did actually write a song about it.
yes.
After I'd been there, so I have kind of done that process.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
it wasn't easy because it was had to do a lot of research on the history of the place. As you mentioned earlier, you know, if you don't have the background knowledge, you very quickly dry up with, you know, words. So
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So the more you do, the more lines you get, and and the more you're able to draw on exactly a whole vocabulary that is linked in to that particular subject.
well, I thought it was a fascinating place because one of the parishioners way back in the 1800s had emigrated to New York and had become the first Catholic Archbishop of New York,
Wow.
and was instrumental in building St. Patrick's Cathedral on Fifth Avenue, and
Oh,
came back to this place for when it was built to take a service there.
was that Warren? Was that Warren Point?
No,
Or no, 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 no.
Knocker.
Oh, right. Okay.
St. McCartan's in Knocker.
Lovely. Yeah. So there's. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And what about Rihanna? Would you like to share?
Yeah, I suppose I was focusing more on the people involved. It's a bit of a hint that I'm probably more of a people person than
Yeah.
an abstract one. Yeah. I wrote, chain gangs working on foundations. Where's the skill in that, they say? These are the men whose blood, sweat, and labor let us see the skyline at the end of the day. Dig deep in the earth with their picks and shovels to sculpt out our cellar, to store our treasures. They put in the props to raise up our dwellings, tall and strong, to stand forever.
Great. Lots of stuff there. Yeah. Absolutely. Lots. Again, you're very lots of completion there.
Right.
And excellent. Well done. Really good. So did you find that exercise was useful?
It was for me. I was surprised what came out, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Extremely useful. And I think actually I probably edited myself too much. I realized that I was trying to make it too much of a lyric to start with instead of just letting it flow. So that was great. Yeah.
I think that's what I'm trying to get at here, is that at this very initial stage, what I want is a kind of like a, excuse the metaphor, but like a vomit. I just want you to just, that's what Bob Dylan said actually about which song was it? It was oh my God, I'll remember it by the end of this. But he said it was just like I vomited out so many words, and like a rolling stone.
Oh, right.
And then he had to edit it all down. But don't be afraid at this stage to try and, yes, be all precise about your lines and your lyrics. What I'm looking for here is the absolute gold, which is gut feeling. Because it's amazing how you will come back to those things you write first. So John, in your case, I would like you to pick something that you haven't written about before in the next exercise at all, or even thought about before, so that you're giving yourself the chance to get your absolute first feelings and write them down, and do an exercise in that, because I think that's where the gold is, to be honest, in songwriting. And funny, it comes through again and again when you take the song through to write to performance, from writing to performance. You will notice how you connect with those things that you thought first, because they do have a significance for you at a very personal level, and that's really, really important. So I think I'm going to do this. I'm just wondering about the time. There's one very short exercise I want to do very, very quickly, that I think helps with melody. And people ask a lot, do you start with the melody? Sometimes I have a melody in my head that's just one line, and or it might even be a line with the melody, but that's it. And then I'll build a whole song around that, just that one line. Sometimes I only have the melody and no lyric, and then you go and find a lyric that works for it. And sometimes you just have a lyric and you have to find a melody that goes with it. But often it comes together for me. So, and I know, talking to other songwriters, everybody's so very different. So whatever works for you. But if you're stuck trying to find melodies, what you're talking about, Deirdre, just playing an instrument, strumming a few chords, even if you only know 3 chords, or playing a few chords on the piano, will often prompt a melody in your head. And don't be afraid to go with it, because a lot of the time you'll say, oh my God, I'm sure that that song exists already. I've heard that a million times. Am I singing somebody else's song? The number of times I've said that when I've written a song, it's incredible. But actually, once you start putting your lyrics to it, even if it is a familiar phrase of a melody, it's amazing how it'll turn into your own song. So again, don't self-censor at this initial stage. Go with whatever, and allow yourself to just explore what's coming out, and don't stop. So this is a good wee exercise, I find. If you can normally I put up a passage here, but I'm afraid I'm a bit limited in my technological abilities right now on this Zoom call. But if you take one word, I want you to take one of the words you've written down there, just one word, and I want you to find 6 or 7, just straight off the top of your head, rhymes to it. Go up to 10 words that rhyme with it if you can, in the next minute. Okay, so take one word, and without thinking too much about it, like best or light, and just find 10 words that rhyme with it. Okay. And you can go for some near rhymes too. Things that sound a bit like it. So loud. Okay, John, what did you have? And give me your rhyming words.
Well, I picked out wall, as in the gable wall. So fall, stall, doll, ball, tall, gall, hall, mall, Paul, roll, tall.
Now, that's fantastic.
Easy word.
Now, do you know what I heard there? I heard a complete rhythm going on. You went ball. I can't remember your words exactly, but you went ball, mall, tall, roll, doll, soul, wall, roll, null, roll. You were coming out with the rhythm as you spoke it. And I could hear a melody there because you're going da, 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 da. It's like a rap. If you allow yourself to rap, to have a bit of fun, it's amazing how rhyming like that the way you spoke that immediately had melody in your voice to me, You're immediately coming up with not so much melody as rhythm. But once you start saying the rhythm out, you can actually put a bit of a melody to it, then it's easier. So if you're stuck for that, that's a really good wee exercise. And let's hear then, we can't go round because I want to move on to the next exercise, but Deirdre, did you have some rhyming words there?
Yeah.
Would you like to share?
Yeah, I picked the word dead. Head, bed, said, dread, bled, fed, led, read, wed instead.
Lovely. And there's a sort of a very kind of a somber tone when you're delivering that, it's da, da, da. It's kind of consistent, steady, da, da. So you can imagine a rhythm that goes, da 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 da. You can hear so I think it's a good wee exercise to do if you're stuck with rhythm. And once the next step of that little exercise that I do with other people is when I have more time, it's actually get them to write out a verse and use those words in their rhyme and find a way to just put the words in a rhyming, because it sort of frees you up having rhyme. It's almost like gives you a structure to work within. So it's just another little exercise that you can use, yourselves. Rihanna, I'm going to move on to the next exercise, and
Yes.
I hope it worked for you, that one too. Did you find
That
it
was
useful?
great. Aye, it was super. Yeah. Especially when you actually highlighted that it was meant to be a rhythm, because then when I read through it, I could swap words to a different position.
Precisely.
Know better. Yeah.
That's exactly it, because the next stage of that little exercise is so much fun, because you realize then that actually, oh, that I can make a sentence that actually makes sense out of that if I use that word there. And it's an easy way, again, to get you kick started onto something. But again, then that's the initial stage when you're liberated and you're free and you're not having to make even sense. It could sound absolute nonsense. But then you go back and you go, well, hold on, what am I saying here? I'm actually saying something that has a lot of meaning to me. And you're actually accessing your unconscious when you do something like that, because you're actually 9 times out of 10, there is a little message in there you're saying, once you said, like even the words you were saying with Deirdre there, the day following on from dead. And I just thought, John, those words coming from wall were fabulous. You could write so much with those words. You had really explored lovely words. So the next, does anybody need a wee break? Are you all right to keep rocking on for another half hour?
Yeah, thanks.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just the next exercise I want to do is just use some prompts again to so I'm going to read some passages. I'm saying there's different things that you can use. Sometimes I do start with books. So this is a book which I don't know, some of you might have come across. It came from the Ulster Architectural Heritage Society. I am a bit fascinated by Art Deco, and this is a book called Glamour and Gloom. It was written by Tanja. I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, but I went to the talk that she'd put on about it. Popple Rooter. Isabel will know if I've got that right or not. And it's a fantastic book, and it talks about the Art Deco buildings in Northern Ireland, really. And there's a whole section here on cinemas, which I absolutely am fascinated by, some of the cinemas. And this is just a description that stuck out for me. It says, the cinema sleeps by day as other buildings do by night. Therefore, its facade should ignore the claims of sunshine and be interpreted in terms of night, not day, architecture, because in darkness it can robe itself with the blaze of light, the hues of which are changeable at will. And that was written by Shand, Modern Theatres and Cinemas. And I just thought that was positively poetic when I read it. So I'm going to read out a couple of things, and if there's something that, because I can't put these up on the screen, I'm going to read them out. And if there's something that strikes you, like a phrase, just jot it down, because we'll be using it in this next exercise. So I'll read that again. Just, the cinema sleeps by day as other buildings do by night. Therefore, its facade should ignore the claims of sunshine and be interpreted in terms of night, not day architecture, because in darkness it can robe itself with a blaze of light, the hues of which are changeable at will. And another passage says, this is from actually Tanja herself, says, in terms of the urban context, the city then takes in the energy of the daytime and returns it during the night. The night removes the business and determination that the daytime represents and replaces it with anticipation and relaxation. I just love cinemas, you know. There's a lovely photo of the Strand Cinema in Belfast.
Yeah. Such a great
And
place.
the whole passage, the whole chapter is about how cinemas are this place of excitement and how they come to life. You know, they've got light towers. They used to build these light towers, you know, and I just love that idea that they're just stealing away the darkness of the night and replacing it with light, because, you know, so it's fantastic, that whole section. Here's a couple of passages, more rural, from the buildings of Armagh. And there's a number of these, the city of Derry and the buildings of Armagh. But this is just, again, you can pick any history book up, really. And I quite like this one, the stable yard. This is in the Palace Domain in Armagh. Just a description of stable yard. So again, note down anything that just sticks out to you, just impacts on you or you connect with. Behind the chapel, hidden in a plantation of trees, is the stable yard. The buildings are a two-story range formed around a quadrangle. The construction is stone. The body of the walling is squared, coursed rubble. Windows and doors are dressed in ashlar work. The service drive gives access to an entrance in the centre of the north face. A second gateway in the east face leads to a service tunnel linking to the basement offices of the palace. And one more with English Street. This is Russell Street and English Street off. An unoccupied 4-bay, 3-story building of smooth render lined out. Continuous first floor sill above painted fascia. Large shop window and small side door. I just thought that's a song in itself. Large shop window and small side door. But so then those are the couple of things I've read out. Another, I'm going to ask Isabel if she's still here to put up some visual images.
Can you see that okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So one is the bank buildings. This is a let's see now if I can find
that after the fire.
Yeah. The doorknob is from a very, the house for McCune and Son, built in 1933, again from Glamour and Gloom. The interior was further richly finished with oak paneling, which still remains intact, including a quirky geometric brass door handle and finger plates. And that's from an Art Deco house. And then you've got an old door. And what we want to look at is the step on the door and how well used it is, and how an inanimate object like a door breathes life, and the life that happened in and around it, and the handles on it, and the touching of it, and the texture of it, and the stone that's worn down, just like the stones on the steps, the feet that walked up it. So if there's anything in those images that appeal to you, and then I don't want to overwhelm you, but if you want to write down these couple of just, sounds like a song for me, This Place of Mine and The Walls Within. So again, what I want you to do is just to take one thing. I know I've given you a lot, but just take one of the things to where you can go back to the other ones that really you loved, something that you just connected with yourself personally, and start by simply just writing out 8 to 10 words. And I'm going to give you like 1 minute, 2 minutes to do that. Choose which one you want to go with and then write out some words. Okay? Okay. Rihanna, do you want to just give us your list of words then? And
right. I've got granite, hard, feet, fell, sill, hill, stoop, side, door, and window.
And which one did you pick to get those words?
The doorstep.
Lovely. Lovely. Can you just read those out one more time then?
Granite, hard, feet, fell, sill, hill, stoop, side, door, and window.
Lovely.
But I did get to the next day. I think the sentences just come out of me before words do. I can't help.
Excellent. Okay, well, do you want to share those with us?
Yeah. Who has worn that doorstep down? Thousands must have passed this way, so that this hard granite, broken and cut in the Mornside hills, is as a recording of the feet that fell on the stoop at the side door of the big windowed sill.
Lovely, very good, lovely, really nice. I'm gonna, before we'll go through more words then, John, and Deirdre, if we could just go ahead now and allow yourself to write some passages. As I say, you don't need to be so complete. Don't worry about being complete. In fact, I don't really mind if it sounds nonsensical. If you just make these nonsensical things, because the crafting and all comes later on. And in this next stage, if you have a sort of slight melody going on in your head, sort of, work to that in your sentences, work to that rhythm that you have in your head, or that melody, and see. But don't worry if that's not coming naturally to you. If you just want to write words, here's the technique. You just write some words, and then you make some sense of the words, put them in a shape, put them in an order, and then put some meaning to them. And that's where the next stage is, where you have just allow yourself to write random things, and then there's a meaning that sometimes comes out. But make it nice, and don't get labored down with trying to make perfect sentences. What I'm saying for this exercise, don't say, I don't want you necessarily to describe things. I want you to talk more about how you feel about them, what they bring about in you. Try and tune into what they bring about. Does that make sense, Deirdre and John?
It does. It does, Brigid. And is this from the words that we've just written?
Yes, I want you to take those words and just elaborate on them. And as I say, start with just a few lines coming together, and then we'll check in with what you've got in another. I want you to take some time on this, a good 5-6 minutes.
Okay.
But you want us to make us into like a verse?
Yes, as I say, if you want to do it in 2 stages, one, just come out with lines, willy-nilly lines, and then the next phase is to sort of make it into a bit of a verse after that. That makes sense. But if you know what I mean, like, I'm trying to think of an example, like, I think what happens, I had, from the door handle, I had brass, geometric, angles, smooth, rich, unique, keyhole, spiral lines, art, craft, workmanship. And I found myself getting into, from just the words, I found myself starting to think about the person who created it, and the way things, so much energy and effort went into things in the past that don't. And that's what it started prompting, that whole idea. And then I started thinking about the man who made it, or the woman, probably man, who made that door, and the art involved. And then started thinking of the artists that must have been involved in those days. And so it took me down this little avenue. So I would start maybe by saying, my couple of lines that might be nonsensical would have been about the artist. The artist carves his lines from the rough hewn stone, and something like that, and then that gives you an idea about what it is you want to talk about. And then the next stage after that is starting to think about verses and chorus. But what I'm trying to encourage you to do is not tie yourself to verse and chorus right now. So even if I check in after 5 minutes on your first even nonsensical sentences, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes.
I just have to try and roll back. I'm not good at getting into the small thing. That it always gets that big thing, and then I have to try and figure out how to get it down.
Well, that's right. And sometimes that's the lovely thing in a song. What you're doing is fantastic. I mean, it's great, and it's great in poetry and storytelling as well. But I think for me, songs should be like little 3-minute movies. And often the main thing is getting rid of all the lyrics and all the words that you don't need. Because as an artist or a writer, you want to evoke an emotion and touch people and connect with people just even by a couple of words. And there might be a word that just stands out that, you know, is the word that people go, oh, I know that, or oh, that makes me cry, or oh, that just gives me a light. That's what you're looking for as a writer. And so you want to try and distill everything down, you know. And what I'm trying to do here is get you to come out with those very instinctive reactions first, from which you can then do that. You know, because sometimes we get laden down with lyrics and lines and speak the way we would speak, but a song is about really distilling everything down to like a little 3-minute movie. So you have to be very careful about the words you use.
Yeah.
You have to be discerning. You have to be discerning about which ones you're going to allow into your song, which ones you're going to get rid of. So that's what we'll do that for 5 minutes, okay? Okay. How are you getting on?
Yeah,
You're in a
good.
flow there. You're in a flow, John.
I can't get away from sentences. So, I'm trying to keep to one specific idea though, like, so at least
Okay.
repeating the theme rather than letting it roll too wide.
Okay. Well, go ahead there, Rihanna, and let's hear what.
I'm using the word stoop, as in that doorstep, right?
Yes. Yes.
She stooped upon the doorstep, weighed down, broken, sad. The stoop was hard, unyielding, like a man that once she had. Heart like stone, like granite, he beat her down each day. Her spirit stooped before her back, he'd broken her that way.
I think that's absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
that is.
you.
I mean, I can feel the old hairs standing on me there for that. I find that very, very moving, and I love the
Thank you.
play with words. I think you've used wordplay. There's loads of texture in it. In terms of you can feel the stone, you can feel the hardness of things, and then that relates to the hardness of our life. There's a lovely synergy between that, and there's a real image of us. It's very rich in imagery. I think and it's moving. So well done, Rihanna. I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you very,
Well,
very much. I think that's a
well,
breakthrough today, coming here with you. That's fantastic. Thank you.
I'm going to write that down. Isabel, write it down. It's a breakthrough.
Yes, oh do, yes. You might see it at the American bar shortly.
Like enough. I am doing an American bar.
Yeah,
Good
I
person.
know. I'm doing it
Oh,
later on this afternoon, so
oh,
just
very
as a
good.
cover
Yeah.
set, yes.
Oh, excellent.
But I
Very
really
good.
wanted to get into this. I knew this would give me inspiration.
Great. That's fantastic. I'm so glad now. And I just think that's absolutely beautiful what you've written. And I'm looking forward to hearing the melody that goes with it. So
Mm.
send
Trying to
it to
think
me
whether
when
it's
you get it.
folky or what. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Fantastic. Well done.
Thank
John,
you.
do you want to
Hello, Macy.
share?
Well, back to the Armagh stable yard. Just put a few random words down. Beautiful stone building. People passing through, windows, doors. People coming to take photographs, enjoy the atmosphere. Hard to find such a place today. And then I wrote a little verse, but it's not quite in there.
Lovely.
It's a hard act
Lovely.
to follow there. People,
I love the yeah.
people
I love
looking.
sorry, I love what you've got so far, because already it's picking out a lovely brightness and buzziness. There's a buzziness going on, and so already what you've said creates an atmosphere. So
Well, I did a little verse, not particularly good, but people looking through windows and doors at Armagh stable yard with granite floors, buildings that's used by people every day through service tunnels, passageways.
lovely. That's class. I think that's great. That's great. And you've managed to take those words but put them into a different, into different sentences. So you've made it your own. You haven't replicated what's written there, and then you've put a little story on it. So if you were going to develop that,
Yeah, you did. It's a bit light. It's a bit lightweight. You need to put in a bit more description. But
what I would do is I would take that, for example, service tunnel or windows and doors, or one of those, a couple of words you had together, a wee passage, a wee part phrase, and then just really dig deep and start writing everything that just comes to you about that service tunnel. Like you'd be thinking, okay, the people that walked through the service tunnel, what the clothes they were wearing, the hardships they carried, the weights they carried, the rush that they had to do, or the happiness or the chat or the laughter. Start thinking about who, what, why, when, and where in the service tunnel, and really dig in there. And then what you do is when you come back to that line that contains that, you can throw in the rush in the service tunnel, or whatever it is, but you'll have come up by then with some lovely words, and so that's what you weave them into that line. So it's not, sorry, what was the line about the service tunnels at the end?
Through service tunnels and passageways.
Yeah. So what you would want there is through something, service tunnels and passageways, something that gives you an insight and a picture, like that little movie scene of the service tunnel, through bustling service tunnels, or through, just put in some adjective or something that gives texture, through rough walled service tunnels, something that makes it come alive.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And Deirdre, what about yourself? Did you find that useful, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's good. That's good.
I think I'm getting more of an insight into what the actual buildings is the big thing, rather than the history is important as well, but the buildings, the texture, and the bits and pieces of the buildings is equally, if not more, important.
Yes, I mean,
That's what's coming across to me.
Well, this is only one aspect. I mean, other people could say, well, you could take a whole historical, like when we wrote when we wrote the song about the Grand Opera House, I wrote it with Gareth Dunlop and myself. We decided to go down the route exactly which maybe you would have done, which is like charting all the historical events that happened. But rather than writing, and then in 1904, or well, not 1904, whenever it was built, then in 19 whatever, such moved in, we had to sort of make it come out with very short lines to capture that, so we had, I can't remember the actual line, but it was Hardy and Laurel, and then sang away. I can't remember the line, to be honest now, but we used the fact that they had visited, and in a context of a story, what they did, and we talked about the impact they had on the people, like they brought the house down. That was it. Laurel and Hardy brought the house down, and then we were on to the next thing that happened. So you have to deliver it in one line, and you wanted to say something that's going to make people think, oh, I identify with that. When you go brought the house down, you immediately have an image, hopefully anyway, we'd hoped people might have an image of just this uproarious laughter happening.
Yeah.
It has to happen in one.
Is that song available? Because the reason why I'm asking, I did one in the Grand Opera House as well.
You wrote one about the.
And I mentioned Laurel and Hardy, Rob Hope, all sorts of things that happened, over the years, Workman Ways, and
brilliant!
And then the General Montgomery and Ike coming over with Irving Berlin. Fantastic! There's so much stuff, but you really have to leave out more than what you could put in.
Well, this is it, you see, and you have to remember, I think it's really important to go back to who is this song for. It's not like a history book, it's a song. Yeah. It's a song. So it has to be light, it has to be short, it has to capture things in a very concise way. And you're right, you have to leave out a lot more than you put in. I'm going to move on quickly to Deirdre, because I don't want to shortchange anyone, and I know we have to finish up soon now, Isabel, don't we?
We're just coming up to time, but you're welcome to run over a little bit. But if anyone wants to head on or needs to head on, that's grand. Just so you can wrap up a bit more and we're not rushing. It's up to you.
Okay. Brigid, I won't tell you at all, because I know you have other things going on. I took the door handle, and this is just
take your time, Deirdre. Take your time.
Thank you. The brass door handle holds a history, a mystery. Whose hands touched this handle? Who were they? What were their hopes, dreams? A loving return, a welcome return, safety home. A bride carried over the threshold, grips the door handle, leaves her trace, sees her future. One hand slung around her husband's neck. Mysteries and memories awaiting. She reaches out to touch the old brass handle.
Class. Brilliant. Fantastic. Really lovely. And again, I think that's a fantastic starting point, because you've got a whole lot of information there. And what you want to do again is just take wee snapshots of that, you know, draw out the words, keep writing for another 5-10 minutes and see what else comes out. But think about, okay, the bride, her emotions, what she's feeling, the flush of her face, something that describes her, some little tiny details, you know, and put them all in there and keep writing till you have this whole fabric of lyrics, you know. And then you go around back on it and you start circling things. That's lovely. I'm going to try and put those together. And you have to, again, don't allow yourself to be weighed down by the logistics of somebody putting their hand around. What's the touch, you know, that stands out? I mean, these are just my ideas. I mean, this is not gospel or anything else. I mean, everybody, like Duke Special, come on here and tell you a whole other different way of doing things, I'm sure. So, you know, this is just my approach, you know. It's just
That's really useful. Thank you. That's great. Yeah.
Well, that's good. And it's just interesting you did the handle. I'm going to just share. I tried really hard to steer away from sentences, and I went, the handle fitted, the lock turned, the brass licked my flesh and cooled it. The stepped contours caught on skin and nestled in to ease my grip, put there with intention. The brass discolored easily, but the flesh kept it bright. And that was my door handle stuff. And I just thought, I'm going to go there, hit the word licked, but I'm going to use it because, you know, people love the stop. The word licked might hopefully stop people, you know. There's certain words that are slightly uncomfortable, maybe, and get those words in, you know. Don't, you know, use everything that's a bit show-stopping, you know, or whatever. So I hope that's helped you all in some way to get you kick-started. And I would just love it if you put something together for this challenge and sent it in. I really would. It would make our day, wouldn't it, Isabel?
Yes, yeah, it would be great to hear, because it sounds like it sounds like he's have already come up with so many ideas throughout this session. So it'll be really interesting to see some of them kind of work through and see the outcome of them. I just want to thank you, Brigid, just for such an interesting workshop. Because I've been kind of scribbling along doing the exercises as well in the background, and it's got me really thinking, and I've never thought of songwriting at all ever, but even, you know, there's a few things that are coming out to me, so it's definitely working. so thank you. I
would really appreciate your feedback, guys, you know, a little line, just because it really helps me develop, you know, just what I'm trying to do as well. So if you would any feedback into Isabel, I would be really grateful for that. Even something that you feel could be improved or whatever. Just, I love to get your feedback.
Yeah.
Well, I'll pop a wee feedback form around to everyone as well for all the different events. So there'll be a wee comments box. So any comments you want to pop in for Brigid, then I can pass those on for you. So I can.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Lovely
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brigid. It's been fascinating.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's lovely meeting you all, and I'm really looking forward. I really do want to hear what you're coming up with now, because obviously you're well on your way, all of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye now. Bye.